Hey, hello everyone and welcome to another video. My name is Angelo and today we are going to be talking about the RTX 4090. Well, if you're new to the channel, let me tell you that unfortunately I'm not important enough to be given one of these, so I bought this myself. So this is not a sponsor or anything like that. However, because I do like to do technical analysis of games and so on, I always try to be on top of hardware just to be able to show the games in their best possible look. And well, sometimes you need one of these to be able to do that, especially now that all games are starting to bring some sort of ray tracing. And oh boy, does this thing deliver on the ray tracing front. I've been thinking for a while that everything about rasterization, we are at the point where, they are not bringing that much more anymore. Maybe if you are going to play at 8K, if you're going to play at 240 Hz and stuff like that, yeah, you probably will need, faster rasterization cards. But if you are looking to play at 60 frames per second, at least a very good quality, any card today, an Ampere at 3060, at 3050, at 2060, we have proven that even with ray tracing at 2060 is more than capable. So now, we have this technology called ray tracing that is being alive since 1977 or something like that, but it's been brought to GPUs recently, as recent as 2018. But just 2 generations after, we can confidently say that finally ray tracing is something that you can enjoy a high frame rate and high resolution without any issues. And that's what the 4090 is. Oh my god, what a beast of a card. But to begin with, let me show you a little bit about this card in particular. This is the Asus TUF Gaming. It's the one I was able to get because it was sold like in 2 seconds here in the UK. So I had to fight for this one, and I have to, I took it out of a dock. So yeah, the dog was buying one, and I saw, what do you need it? I took it. Yeah, I have no shame. But anyway, so this card, also was the cheapest, to be honest, or the cheapest of the AAB. This one costs exactly the same as the Founders Edition, which was surprising. I really like this construction. It's not the first one I had, a 3090 from TUF. I liked it. I like the construction. However, this thing, my friends, these things here, and I showed you the box because the card is in the case, and I'm not going to take that thing out, and you are going to see in a second why. This thing is a beast. I have some pictures I've been showing, hopefully if I didn't forget to edit that in, and it's just stupidly big. I never seen something like this. I thought the 3090 Founders was already big. This thing is like the Titanic. It's even bigger. It's just crazy. It's just crazy stuff. So I had to do some work to make it fit in my case because I have a very small case, to be honest, but so far was more than enough to anything I needed. Not for this thing, so I have to sort of make my way around to make it work. And as you can see in the pictures, yeah, it's not the prettiest job, but it's working fine, so no problems there. So this sort of review comment about the RTX 4090 is going to be different than many big outlets for many reasons. To begin with, I don't have computers to spare like them. I don't have the latest and the greatest of CPU and DDR5 and RAM and all of that, and a nice test bench to test it, unfortunately. So I have to do what I can with what I have, and what I have is my own PC, which is using an i5 12600K, 32 gigs of RAM, and I think it's 32,000 DDR4 3200. So as you can see, it's not a huge fastest computer. I think it's a good, decent computer, very good, especially all things considered, but it's not the fastest computer you are going to be finding around. So what I wanted to show was this case scenario, the normal case scenario, the person, who already has something and is just going to throw a new GPU in. So this is working from my computer, just as normal. All I did was remove my 3080 Ti and put in the 4090 and see what gains I will get. Because normally when you put a new CPU, GPU or something, you don't have a fresh Windows install. Many of us keep our Windows installed for many times. Well, I know I do, because I don't like to configure everything again and again and again. So we have all this software running around. We have Office with antiviruses. We have editing software, maybe Photoshop, and so many things running and loading with your computer. So what difference will it make for this thing by just swapping my card? Will I see a big jump, or is my computer going to restrain this card? So that's sort of what we are going to be testing today. So I'm going to be showing you some results from before with the 3080 Ti and then after with the 4090. So let's go and see them, and then we'll come back to our conclusions. Okay, so let's start with Red Dead Redemption. And I have to say that for all the games you're going to see in this benchmark or analysis, none of them use preset. I went and manually put every single options for every single graphical settings to the max that the game can, okay? So I'm not using just the presets to put them on ultra. I went and manually changed every single option. And as you can see in Red Dead Redemption 2, this is again with the 3080 Ti going at around 55 to 62 frames per second. It's very well considering we are not using DLSS or any upscaling solution in any of these games, especially in this one. But it's still, what I wouldn't consider, stable, considering that if you want to play at 60 frames per second, well, you are going to be under for very many times. However, when we move to the 4090, we see how big of a change this is. And remember, this is just me swapping the GPU on my computer, which is a normal computer I use every day with a lot of bloatware and a lot of other, antiviruses and everything that loads with it. And it's not a top of the line computer as many others like a 12900K or a Ryzen 7 or anything like that. This is just your everyday computer. Well, maybe a little bit above normal, but you know what I mean. So, and we're seeing frames up over 100. This will mean that I can play Red Dead Redemption 2 at maximum quality 4K, no upscaler at all, at over 100 frames. That is insane, my friends. Imagine if I activate something like DLSS just to get that little extra push to maybe take better advantage of my monitor. Now we see one of the games I like the most. I said it before, I love this game. I think graphically it looks phenomenal and is super well optimized. And as you can see, once again, I put everything to extreme. Every single option I could, I maxed out. And I started playing, and you can see the 3080 Ti has no problem handling this game at 4K. However, I know for a fact that there is points on this game that you can get a little bit under 60 frames per second. However, I wouldn't say that's a big problem. After all, we are playing at 4K and so on. We're being picky here, but of course, and what I'm trying to show is the difference in power between cars, so I have to be picky. In any other circumstances, I wouldn't be, I think around 50 to 60 is playable enough and you can enjoy the game. But then the magic happens when we move to the 4090. Look at that, we're talking almost 144 Hz. That's the max that my monitor support. However, I'm not limiting the frame rate to 144, but that's what is being shown on the screen at the moment. Because I think my CPU is being the bottleneck. I think we could get over or maintain a stable 144 if it wasn't because of my CPU, which is insane to say when we're talking about 4K resolutions with everything maxed out. Is the GPU, is the CPU, sorry, that is being the bottleneck. It's crazy. Think about that. It's the CPU being a bottleneck in this case. Now, another game, I think it looks phenomenal, and even if it's not the, by today's standard, it's not the biggest graphical achievement, I think it's still a great game on PC, and that's obviously is God of War. And as you can see here on a 3080 Ti, you're going to have an amazing experience, which is 4K 60, and I haven't seen this dip under 60, at least on the different areas I've tested. Of course, I cannot show you all the areas I tested. I just pick a small clip, 1 minute, and try to show you that to you, but you get the idea. So this game is going to run obviously phenomenal, and for me, if you get to 60 FPS, anything above that is just gains. At least when you get to 60, you have a fluid game. But I understand people want to play a more than 100 frames, and well, here it is. We can do the same with the 4090, and we are at around 120 FPS. We never go over 120 FPS because I stupidly locked it at 120 FPS sorry, by mistake. But you can see that, so anyway, you get under. So there are probably points where we could have gone over 120, but I don't think they are that many or that often. However, as you can see, this is a scene here with many enemies and particles and explosions and things going on. Everything is going very fluid, no problems whatsoever, but I don't think the graphic cards is being stressed out, and I think once again this is a CPU bottleneck. That's just crazy to say, it's crazy, and also give me confidence that these cards should last for a long time, if that is what people are trying to, let's call it, investment. Another game that I think it looks phenomenal is Horizon Zero Dawn. And I know that Horizon Forbidden West is out for PlayStation 5 and it looks so much better, but I still think these games look so good on PC, especially when you're able to max every single option, The draw distance are better, the games run at 60 FPS. It's such a good game, especially if you like open world games. And this one is very fun. And as you can see on a 3080 Ti, you can play this game all day long at 4K 60 FPS, no problems whatsoever. So of course it's not going to be a big problem for the 4090. However, you are on the verge of going a little bit down from time to time, so that could be a problem for some. But in this case, because we're being picky, we need to be picky. So in this case, I'm going to say that yeah, there could be that point where you get under 60. So for those little points there is that you need a 4090. And now when we see at the 4090, you can see once again the story repeats, and it's the fact that we are going over 100 FPS almost all the time. I wouldn't say we are doubling the FPS because, well, we were able to touch around 70 at points. Obviously, it's not the same area, but still, we are around 120. And no, I didn't block it this time. I checked and I'm super sure that I couldn't. So I don't know if 120 is like an engine lock or something, but I don't think so, because from time to time you see it going a little bit up. Anyway, if you have a 144 monitor, 40 Hz monitor at 4K, you can take advantage of it now with these games, and just they look so fluent and phenomenal. Okay, this has been like 3 Sony games in a row, and this case is Spider-Man. And well, this is playing with the 3080 Ti, ray tracing on, everything active at 4K native, and this game runs on the 3080 Ti at around 40 frames per second, which is not great, but you can limit to 30 if you want to have a more stable experience. But it's not amazing to see this game running like this. Of course, you can activate DLSS, but the other problem this game has is the CPU. This game is very CPU dependent, so I wasn't sure if my CPU was going to be limited in this game. And don't pay too much attention to the percentage in the MSI Afterburner, because I think there is a weird bug, because no game was putting this CPU over 20 or 30%, which I find odd. So I think there is something wrong going on there. Maybe I need to update that. Anyway, when we go to the 4090, then we see that, well, the CPU wasn't really bottleneck, at least not yet, or the GPU can take care of more information, because we can now go over 60 FPS without an issue. So if you wanted to play this game at 4K native 60 FPS, ray tracing and everything, absolutely every option max out, well, you can do that with the 4090. However, as I always say, that's probably not the most intelligent thing, in the sense that, you know, there are ways to achieve frame rate you with things like DLSS, FSR, and so on. So it's always good to have those options and to use them better. So you don't need 4090 to achieve this. But well, the point is that you can do that now if you want, and play completely on native here. And well, you know, the game is super fluent, and you can lock it at 60 and have and call it a day. Honestly, it's that good. However, I wanted to try something else, and this is the only game I have that where DLSS 3 is active at the moment. So what you're seeing here is not representative, because obviously this is recording at only 60 frames per second, and because of the variables of the frames, I'm not sure if we're seeing a mix of, you know, generated and real frames, or only real frames, or how is the NVIDIA experience recording this. However, we can see here that, you know, the frame, you can check there, is there. We went over 100 frames per second after checking with DLSS 3, which means our CPU, even though it's limited in this game because those frames are generated, the CPU is not involved, and we can get more frames per second. And I couldn't notice anything particularly wrong with latency or anything. The image look good enough. I mean, I haven't just tested frame by frame, but it looked great to my eyes, at least. We have to check this more. Now, this weird game that you're seeing here is Lego Builders, and you say, why are you testing this stupid game? It's not stupid to begin with, it's very good. But over that, this game is quite heavy on the ray tracing. I will say this game is probably completely path traced, and it looks, the Legos look phenomenal. But the truth is that this game is very, very heavy. I don't know if because it's badly optimized, or Unity still is not very good at ray tracing, because this game was made in Unity. But the fact is that this game, with every ray tracing option, is running at a 17 FPS on a 3080 Ti. You cannot see that in there because for some reason MSI Afterburner doesn't allow this game to run. So I had to disable that, and any other option I tried, I couldn't record for some reason. So well, you see, now that we start testing some ray trace games, we can see this game here running at 17 frames per second on a 3080 Ti. When we switch to the 4090, I think it's more than evident that the frame rate has improved by a lot, and by a lot I mean double the frame rate. Yes, double. So this game is now running around 34 to 35 frames per second. Yes, it's still not 60 frames per second, but that's what you have DLSS for, because you can use DLSS balance and we will get around 70 FPS. So that will solve the problem. But you know, this is the sort of game that I think 30 frames is more than enough in any case, if you are one of those who for some reason hate DLSS. And here we have Dying Light 2, and the reason I'm putting this side by side is because this is a cinematic, and so I can show them running exactly at the same position. And you can see that basically we're getting double the frame rate, exactly double in some cases, exactly more, exactly no, a little bit more on some, and a little bit less on some, but on average is double the frame rate, and this is with ray tracing and everything. So finally we're at a point where we can play Dying Light 2 with 4K resolution at full ray tracing, and maybe enabling DLSS quality and get those sweet 60 frames per second. If you want more than that, probably we will need to go to DLSS balance, and if you don't mind, you can get to DLSS performance, have a great image quality, and get around 80 to 100 frames per second. So that's amazing. In just what, this game came out this year, and we can already max out this game and play at the best quality with ray tracing, no problems whatsoever. Look, 3080 of course will do good with a DLSS active, but we're showing just the performance in this case. Now this, I have to double check and triple check, and I don't know if I did something wrong or there is a bug or what, but the gains in this game, which is Guardians of the Galaxy, are insane. This is everything again maxed out. I checked that DLSS and FSR were not active on the 4090. However, you can see here that we are talking like almost triple the performance, like 3 times the performance. While on the 3080 we are going around 32, 33 frames per second. We can go at 83, 84 frames per second on the 4090. And I don't know, I'm baffled about this because honestly, I checked many times to be sure that something wasn't happening, some weird thing, but well, I couldn't find anything. So there is always you know, I could have messed something up, but well, these are my results at the moment. So I don't know if everybody will gain the same, but this is the game that gave me more gains, and it's just ridiculous to think now I can play this at 4K 60 frames. And well, here we have Cyberpunk. I know many people were waiting for this to see how it runs. So this is running at Psycho Ray Tracing mode, okay? So it's important to understand that. This is not just the Ultra Preset, this is the Psycho mode, which as you can see without any sort of DLSS is running at just 14 to 15 frames per second. So unplayable. No, it's not even cinematic frame rate what we're getting here. It's really that bad. But yeah, we know how heavy this game is on the ray tracing. Without ray tracing, you can play all day long, no problem whatsoever on a 3080 Ti. But as soon as you activate that ray tracing, you need DLSS to get to a comfortable point. So that's one of those things, and I apologize for that, but my voice is killing me. So now you see here in the 4090 how things change. You can see that it's now more fluid than it was, like a lot. Now it's completely playable from my point of view. And remember, this is without DLSS at all. These are real frames, this is a real resolution, and you can see you can play this game. You can even lock this game at 30 if you want and play this game like this all day long. Remember, this game runs at 1440p on the Xbox and Series X, on the Xbox and the PlayStation 5, sorry, 1440p, and with only two ray trace options, which are shadow options, and at 30 frames per second. Here we're playing a 4K, everything max out, ray tracing included, and we are still getting those sweet 30 FPS. So well, you know, if somebody cares about that, this is a good option, I will say. But you can see we're getting the same frames here. That is the thing that we get now when we active DLSS balance. So on the 3080 Ti, we need to put DLSS balance to get the same frame rate we were getting in the 4090 at native resolution. That's crazy, guys. That's crazy because the 3080 basically is now rendering at 1440p or a little bit lower, if I don't remember wrong the resolution. Is that 1080p? No, it's like a between 1080p and 1440p when you activate balance, and we get around 40 FPS, which is still good, but it's, you know, it's still not 60. You will need to get to performance, or probably ultra performance, and for me, you know, ultra performance, they start getting to lose some quality, so it's like not the best option. And so the 3080 Ti is probably, you know, you have to lower some other options, of course. Is you have to be intelligent about what you activate or not in order to get the best experience out of games. You know, this is me just being extreme for the sake of testing these cards. But now when we do the same for the 4090, we have a game, a Cyberpunk, with everything on that you can turn on, running at more than 60 frames per second using only DLSS balance, which looks basically the same as 4K to my eye. Imagine that, that's just crazy. And remember, I don't have access to DLSS 3 in this title yet, so I couldn't even test frame generation, which is supposed to take, you know, the frames to double them. So we were probably talking about 150 FPS, at least to max my monitor, because I don't think my CPU will have enough juice to put that further. But it's just crazy. It's crazy that we are at this point right now after just 2 generations of RTX car. Really, this is incredible, and I am so joyful for the future. Well, as you saw, the results from my point of view are insane. The jump in performance is absolutely crazy. even with this computer. So you can see there is a benefit. There is something you're gaining, especially if, like me, you're playing a 4K 144 Hz and you love your ray tracing. We saw some games gaining 3 times the performance in ray tracing without using DLSS or anything like that. And considering DLSS 2 is also faster, you can play those games in quality mode and get the results you want. Sorry for that. As you know, I just had COVID. I'm still having some issues, so this may happen. So I'm sorry for that. But as you can see, we got like twice on rasterization, and I think that I'm limited by my CPU. Probably if I had a better CPU, I will have better results in rasterization. But anyway, in any single game we put onto the test a 4K, because there is no point on buying this thing for 1080p or even 1440p unless you're trying to play at 240 Hz, which yeah, maybe, but I'm not quite sure you will really get everything out of this car at 1440p. So we were playing at 4K, especially at 144, and we saw double the rasterization, sometimes triple the RT. It's just crazy. I don't think there is a game that is going to put this car to like shame. Of course, we saw that, for example, Cyberpunk won't run at 60 frames per second 4K Psycho mode, okay? Yeah, there are still some games that are not right there, but all you need to do is activate DLSS even in quality mode, and that's it. You get more than 60 frames per second, even 80. And if you go to balance or to, I don't know, performance mode, things are going to get even higher. So it's crazy to think where we are now, considering I've been living the whole, evolution of graphic cards, from starting with the Trident, S3 Verge, 3D effects with the Voodoo, and then I went to all of them. And I don't think I've been more excited with a car since like the times of the Voodoo 2 probably, and the Voodoo 2, because that was the first car that you started to show that something was possible on PC. Before that, it was like consoles were the place to play certain games, but the 3D acceleration brought to PC something we never had before, that was high frame rates for 3D, like smooth textures and so on. So that at that time it was amazing. So now seeing I can finally play RTX games at high resolution and high frame rate is really exciting for me, because I am one of those who love the rays in the ray tracing game, so I like to activate all of those options. So talking about this, also just comment, as you can see, that these things are massive, and in my case I had to cut my case to be able to put it in because it was too big, extremely big. So there was no other option for me unless buying a new case, and that was not going to happen because I already don't have the money for that. So that a solution was just cut it, put it in, and it's working. It comes with a little support, so that's fine, no problems there. The other thing, if you're thinking, is about power consumption. Well, as you saw, the car can go from 300 to 450 watts depending. However, I never had any issues, or my computer has never had any issues, considering the power supply I'm using is just a Corsair 850 watts. So it's nothing special. I just connected all the cables that with the adapter, and no problems whatsoever. My CPU is not that, wattage intensive, so it's like 100 watts, 120 in the worst case. So even that both of them combined will never get close to 850, plus a couple of NVMe drives, mechanical hard drive, the RAM, and some fans are never going to get my power supply to 850 watts. So depending on your situation, and you have an 800 or a 1000 power supply, it will be more than enough. Of course, if you are pairing this with a Threadripper, then yeah, maybe you will need a 1000 or 1200 watts power supply, but that's not necessary, or even necessary to get one of those fancy new PCI 5.0 power supply. So it will depend on what you have already and how you are going to use it. So power wise, I don't think this is a problem. Now, temperature wise, this has been, I don't know if they over engineering this stuff and it's too big. There are some theories going around which I'm not sure if I believe them, but anyway, you saw this car never go over 60 degrees. So it was working all the time under 60 degrees, which is just absolutely crazy, absolutely insane from my point of view, at least, because I never had that happen. I've been, having a lot of high-end GPUs. I remember a Zotac 970, and that thing was always like getting 80 degrees. I was throttling back. Yeah, the cooling solution wasn't the best, but even so, it was getting 80 on a 970. Then we got the 3090, and even on the Founders Edition, you could get very close to 80, 78, and so on. So we're 20 degrees under, which is quite good. I really, really like it, and it's very silent, if you ask me. And you can work on the curve, and this one comes with dual BIOS, and one is even more silent than the other, and you will lose only like 2% performance. So wow, it's crazy. So well, as you saw, this is sort of my mini review. Probably will come with a new one for another AV partner, which I'm working for. Unfortunately, they are not giving it to me either, so it's just a length, and it's not to me, it's actually to somebody else, but I'm doing a favor to him to prepare the review. So well, there you go. We have the RTX 4090. Now, why I haven't mentioned the price in this talk is, it's hard to talk prices when these sort of products are more halo products, right? It's for those people who wants the best of the best and are willing to pay anything. So in those cases, prices don't make too much sense. This is a $1,600 card, which seems to be a lot, and I think it is. Prices have been going up and up, but considering forgetting a second about all the scalping and everything, just comparing this, not even with the 3090 Ti, but the 3090 that came out at $1,500. When you see the difference or the gains you are making from this car, I think inflation and everything is considered, $1,600 seems like a good price compared to the 3090. I'm not saying that people should be paying $1,600 for a card, because obviously they've been going up in prices, but honestly everything has been going up in prices. But even so, if we compare the two class of cards, I think you are getting a lot more bang for your bucks with the 4090 that you were getting at the time with the 3090, and especially with the 2080 Ti, which I had to. At the time, the 2000 series wasn't well received, price performance, and I agree, even though I can say that, over time those cards are still going very strong with the new technologies, doing ray tracing very good and so on. So, at the end of the day, it will depend on how you will recover that investment, to call it in a way. In my case, it's a working tool, to call it. So yeah, I think that the 4090 honestly is a beast. It's the fastest GPU in the planet at the moment. So what can I say? 4090, there you go. There are the benchmarks. I hope you like this sort of mini personal review. It's not so technical, but I think it will give you a very good idea about how these things behave. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you.